Hello, good morning, and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform with me, Samson Ladianyanini. Today, we are looking at three of the topmost issues that were on the front pages of your mind in the course of the week. The Auditor General, Daniel Domino, was locked out. Was he? He had the locks to his office door changed. The Audit Service and the board explained that this was for good reason and in his own interest. But he was unhappy about what happened. Some suggest this may give a sign that the government is not committed to the fight against corruption. How so? Two international audit institutions, reputable, have written to the government to caution it against how it treats the matter with Yao Domino. Questions are being asked. Can the service be there and work without him? Then there was this 90-year-old woman, very heart-wrenching. Some people decided to constitute themselves to a court. They tried and convicted her of witchcraft. They murdered her. Some have been arrested. The major question to ask today is the question of mob injustice in this country. How serious have we been fighting against it? The John and Jane tickets are adored in the course of the week. What's the magic in that ticket? We'll examine it right here on the show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And here's my take. Trial by ordeal is punished in Ghana. The law generally does not deal or concern itself with the metaphysical or the spiritual. And the reason is simple. We as humans or a court may not be capable, have the tools to investigate matters of the spirit. So they cannot do that and bring you a verdict. That's why the law punishes a person who directs, and I'm quoting the law, that is section 315. A person who directs or controls or presides at a trial by ordeal. So, if you direct, you control, or you are presiding at a trial by ordeal, and that's a question of spiritual matters, it punishes you with up to 10 years in jail. And then for those people who are participants, who are observers of what is going on, the law is also against that and punishes you with up to 3 years in jail. So if there's a trial by ordeal going on and you went there to observe, you went there, participated in whatever way, or just by standing there and watching, you could go to jail for 3 years. In fact, the law in Section 22 of the Criminal Act, which I'm referring to, places a burden and a responsibility, a duty on all reasonably minded persons to prevent felony from happening. So felony like someone causing death, which is punished by death. You have a duty to prevent it. And the law says a person who, knowing that another person designs to commit or is committing a felony, but you fail to use all reasonable means to prevent the commission or completing the felony, you commit a misdemeanor, and you can be punished with up to 3 years. If you are involved in the direction or you are involved in the control or presiding over a trial by ordeal, you could actually be punished with murder, which means you go to jail or you'll be sentenced to death. Let's be careful how we allow some of these things to happen in our communities. It is wrong. Thank you very much. Now, my guests are seated. Let me introduce them to you, and we begin our discussion for today. And of course, this matter is one that we will be discussing. My guest in the studio, Abdul Malik Kubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's a regular panelist. Professor Ransford Jampo, Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. On Zoom is Kweku Asari, Professor Stephen Kweku Asari, Fellow CDD Ghana and D&D Fellow for Public Law and Justice. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Right. So, as we have indicated to you, and you may have followed in the course of the week, all right, some things happened at the offices of the Auditor General in the course of this week. I don't know where you stand, whether you belong to the school that says the Auditor General, Daniel Yao Domelevo, who is on 167 days leave, is acting like a kid, like the board chairman will suggest, or that he's simply just playing things up in the media in a way he shouldn't, like a group that sympathizes with the audit service and the board chairman suggests, or like the CSOs who came together and still stand their ground and who have gone to court insist that what is going on is absolutely ridiculous, that there is a clear design to oust the Auditor General, a power that the President doesn't have to exercise. Now, take a listen to some of these things.
What?
There's no need for trying.
Yeah, but the key cannot even enter.
It's a different.
How do you see that? It was flat like this.
Yeah, so this,
and they changed it to this one. So that is fine.
He came back, collected some documents, including a letterhead, to write back to the head of state, the president. And then also, the acting Auditor General informed us that he wasn't happy about the security of that office. And therefore, he was suggesting that we secure the place. The board authorized him to buy new locks and secure the place. When he has done that, he gave the keys to the secretary of Mr. Domelevo. My information is that the secretary decided that she would not take the keys. The keys were again given to the Deputy Auditor General in charge of Finance and Administration. I was informed by the Acting Auditor General that he says she will not take them. So we kept the keys, he kept the keys with the cashier. And as we speak now, the keys are with the cashier. Yesterday, the acting Auditor General informed me that Mr. Domino came to the office, went straight to his office and couldn't get in. So he came back to inform him that he has not been given access to the place. He explained to him that the board asked him to secure the place and that the keys are with the cashier. So he could go for it. My information from the acting Auditor General, it explained to him that the board asked him to secure the place and that the keys are with the cashier. So he could go for it. My information from the acting Auditor General is that he said he was very furious that we have locked the place and given the keys to the cashier, so he wasn't going for it. And then he went straight to Joy FM and then the other FM stations and reported. So that's how the case was. His office is there, the keys are available with the cashier, and if he wants to go there, he must get to the acting Auditor General and he will direct him as to where he can get the keys to get to his office. Nobody has locked him out of the office.
But Prof, you have occupied that office before. If you go on leave, must the locks in your office be changed?
Yeah. But if I go on leave and there is a problem about the office, the locks, the board has every right to make sure that the place is secure.
What is the problem about the locks?
The problem about the locks was that Mr. Domino came there a day after he has left and went there, collected letterhead and also without telling the acting Auditor General that he was there. So,
but that is his office, he's just on leave.
Yes, but somebody is acting for him. Don't you see this? That somebody is there acting for him. And therefore, if anytime he wanted to come there, the courtesy would be that, okay, I'm here to take A, B, C, D.
This is very shocking news. In 20 years of democratic governance, this is probably one of the lowest points that this country has experienced. The thinking behind this, we are not quite too sure. We all know that any one of us on leave is able to walk into his office, pick up staff, and especially for an office that is an independent institution of state that the Constitution has made effort to protect and to guard against this kind of interference. It's an embarrassing situation to find ourselves in as Ghanaians. This is not the kind of thing we should be focusing on in an election year. And we think that it's about time that we hear from the president himself. What exactly is going on? What are they trying to achieve? The man has not been legitimately removed from his position. On which basis would anybody go and tamper with his office door? What may they have done in that office, placed in that office? This is absolutely unacceptable. We will continue to make sure that this issue is not left lying because it has serious consequences for our constitutional arrangements, which we should not allow to continue this way. The president is wrong.
Did you petition the president the last time you spoke about this, and have you received any response from him?
No, we're one of a number of groups that had written to the presidency asking the president to bring back Mr. Domino. We've not received a direct response to our appeal to him so far, except that other parties who had written to the president have been written to, and the response suggests that there's not going to be a callback, and we are quite disappointed with that. But it will not stop us.
Right. You're welcome back. So you first saw the Auditor General on leave, visiting his office, and finding that he's unable to access the office with the keys, original keys to the office, handed to him. Then you heard next Dr. Dua Ajiman, former Auditor General himself, who is now chair of the Audit Board, Service Board, and works also from the Office of the Presidency, explaining that they had issues and they made the necessary orders. And finally, you heard Dr. Kojo Fumpuni Asante of the CDD, one of the institutions, that was Senanu rather. Dr. Kojo Fumpuni Asante has spoken earlier about the matter. So this is Adam Senanu, who belongs to the group of CEOs that have come together and have petitioned the president to rescind this decision and restore Domino. Of course, the president has replied and told them that he's unable to change the decision he has taken. Right. So, do we have Professor Kweku Asare on the line on Zoom? Prof, welcome.
Thank you, Samson.
Right. So, starting with you, because you represent the CEOs that have been championing this matter, CSOs that have been championing this matter, and you have by yourself actually taken a suit to the court, the Supreme Court, and actually sought an injunction to stop or prevent the acting Auditor General from occupying the office until the suit is determined. What do you make of the latest developments?
Thank you, Samson. With leave from you, I'll make several points. First, from a constitutional perspective, nothing is more important in this country today than the vexed question of whether the Constitution allows the president to lock out the Auditor General for 167 days. This is one of the events that will be discussed for a very long time, in much the same way as even today we talk about Akoto and 7 others from the First Republic, Apollo 568 from the Second Republic, the attempt to remove Chief Justice Apalu, culminating into 4 from the Third Republic. Samson, the Supreme Court is the sole enforcer of the Constitution. We can discuss this here and elsewhere every day, but nothing will be resolved by us. The only way, Samson, to resolve this matter is to invoke, as I have done, the court's original, exclusive, and let me add a new one. This is one that most people don't know. Their apostolic jurisdiction under Article 130 via Article 2. At a time, Samson, when Intosci and Ye Afrosci, these are Supreme Audit institutions, groupings of the Supreme Audit institutions of the world and of Africa, are raising questions about the directive and its potential to compromise the Auditor General's independence. It appears problematic to me for our Supreme Court to shy away from the issue and embark on a 2-month vacation. As you mentioned, I issued a writ on July 10th, claiming the president has violated Article 187.7 by attempting to direct and control the Auditor General, that the Deputy Auditor General has violated Article 187.16 by performing the functions of the Auditor General without first subscribing to the oath of the Auditor General, relying on Samens and Asare versus the Auditor General. We are also of the view that the Auditor General should not even have handed over matters related to his office to the Deputy General. And so the Attorney General has presented his side of the story, alleging that the president had powers to do so under Article 297. Samson, the court must decide. They must deem this important enough and of national interest. And like the Aqua Court in Luke Mensa of Sunyani versus Attorney General, where the Supreme Court, on a very, untidy writ, said that, look, their jurisdiction is epistolic, and so they are going to ignore all the flaws and take judicial notice of the constitutional issues and resolve it. And they did resolve it. And in my opinion, this court must do the same thing, come out of its vacation, and address the issue. All the arguments have been made. The court cannot, when the whole country is talking about this matter, when Intosai is talking about this matter, when Afrosai is talking about this matter, just rest comfortably in a vacation mood and allow this constitutional cancer to fester. So I'm humbly using your platform, pleading with His Lordship, Justice Ani Yeboah, whom I admire and respect tremendously, and who is also a fellow vandal who believes truth must stand. I'm urging him to direct the court panel hearing our case to consider the briefs before them and give us a decision within 10 days. The Auditor General has already been on an involuntary leave for 31 days, and any more days will cause irreparable harm were the court to find this constructive removal to be unconstitutional. Samson, 2 more points. The court's rules of procedures, important as they are, should aid the administration of justice. It should advance the cause of justice and not defeat it. Where there is a conflict between the law of procedure and enforcement of the Constitution, the latter must prevail, which is the ultimate end of law and of justice. Likewise, I think in this case, enforcing the Constitution and addressing the public's concern should be prioritized over the court's vacation. I'm afraid, Samson, that the court's reputation will be severely and permanently damaged if it fails to pronounce on this issue and heads for its 2 months vacation, allowing this issue to just hang out there. Posterity will score a non-decision as a tacit endorsement of the involuntary leave, especially as the court has seen the Deputy Auditor General in court and allowed him to offer an Auditor General's opinion on Kroll. So that's where I'll leave it at, and I'll be happy to answer any questions arising out of this admittedly long presentation. Thank you for the time, Samson.
All right, so having discovered that you were actually looking sort of at a script and expanding the script, my decision was not to interrupt at all. So, number one, your concern is one of an administrative in nature, where you are making a suggestion to the court. The vacation by the court is set out in law. I'm a lawyer. I celebrated Friday after having gone through a hectic day to conclude the term, the legal term, hoping that I enjoy the leave, even though the district courts, the circuit courts, they have no vacation. At the high court level, specific courts remain to take care of emergency situations during the vacation period. You are saying because of this one single case, the court history must change. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Samson, as it did change in the case of the election petition. Look, the court rules are there to facilitate justice. They are not there to tie our hands and something important is happening and we say, well, let it happen because the court is on vacation. That is such a pedantic view of the rules that nobody who understands justice will likely buy it. There is a tremendous problem going on in this country. And what stops the court? They really have all the briefs. They can meet by Zoom, discuss it, issue an opinion, and just release the opinion. No lawyers should appear in court. No witnesses are needed. This is just arguments. They look at the arguments and they can issue an opinion. They should do that. By the way, Samson, in India, the Supreme Court has something that it calls a vacation bench. And that means even when they are on vacation, a panel of the court is always available to hear urgent cases like this one. I will also suggest that because we have over 20 Supreme Court justices, and because our Supreme Court sit in panels of 7, there will be no reason for all of them to take their vacation at all the time and create this 2 months vacuum where when there's an important constitutional case, we fold our hands and say, well, there's nothing we can do because the court is on vacation.
Okay, so do you appreciate that the point you are making in trying to make this case a very special, peculiar matter feeds into the arguments that you, the CSOs, appear to suggest that in the absence of Domino, there will not be a functioning audit service? What kind of thinking is that?
Because that's not what the CSOs are thinking. That's what the Constitution says. The Constitution creates a one-man Auditor General and a one-man Auditor General's office. The Auditor General's office is in Article 187A. The Audit Service Board is something different. That is in Article 189. So, for instance, the board of the audit service cannot direct or control the Auditor General because the Auditor General is independent of everyone, including the board. It would make no constitutional and audit sense to have a board that works at the presidency oversee the work of an independent Auditor General. Anybody who understands auditing, this is not even law, this is just auditing. Anyone who understands auditing knows that that arrangement is uncalled for, and any serious reading of Article 187, which creates the Office of the Auditor General, Article 188, which creates the Audit Service Board.
I just wanted just quick ones to clear this off and then we move on. Now, factually though, the Supreme Court is not constituted by, or it's not, they don't have 20, they have less than 20 judges at the Supreme Court. But, but my next issue is that you compare this to the election petition. That's such an odious comparison. You don't agree? And the election petition is regulated by a different law, as in the CI. That CI allowed the court to sit even on holidays and weekends. Somebody went to court and got the court to change that also because that was not lawful. So they are not the same situations here.
They are, to me. See, this is another problem because we sometimes think that matters relating to the presidency override everything. But the Auditor General oversees the public financial system. When the person who the Constitution has appointed to oversee, to audit the public financial system, to audit the presidency, has been sent home by the same presidency that the Constitution says he should audit, we have a constitutional crisis. That matter has to be resolved by the Supreme Court to protect the public financial system, to remove the cloud hanging on the Deputy Auditor General, to stop this business of changing locks here and there, and to showcase the court as a serious sentinel.
So when I say that it is not the same as an election petition that almost brings the country to a standstill, and a historic one like that, the petition is prosecuted on a different law. That law has timelines within which every activity must occur. So it says the election of the president you are coming to challenge, you must file your case within 21 days after the occurrence of the event. If you get out of time, you will be shut, the doors will be shut to you. Now, in the present situation, the case you filed, once you deliver your case from that date, 14 days must come, within which the one you have sued must reply to you in filing what is known as the statement of case. So strictly speaking, your case is not matured.
It does.
The injunction application was matured, but that one on legal technical basis was struck out, right?
Samson, we filed our case on July 10th. July 10th. Today is 1st August.
Yeah, you count from the date you served the other party. Is that not so?
Yeah, they were served the next day. So going by your timeline, the 14 days have elapsed. And what we have, that is another proposal that I'm going to make, that at the registry itself, lawyers must be hired who can read the case and understand the substance of the issues, to treat every case that is filed the same way and say, well, look, you filed for an injunction because they are going to execute you tomorrow, but then somebody is sitting at the registry say, well, yeah, so what? The other party has 14 days to respond. That to me is a complete misunderstanding of what justice is all about.
No, that's the law. That's the law. The law should not be changed because there's a matter about Domino.
Yeah, and I'm saying this matter here raises issues about our public financial system. Only the Auditor General is supposed to audit the accounts of the Republic, the accounts of the MDAs, the accounts of the universities. All the audits that are being done now are being done on a questionable basis because the Auditor General who is supposed to oversee that is not there. That's something that everybody must understand. That's a very serious issue.
Okay. All right. So you know what? Let me pause on this matter at this point, and then the specific. If you can spend just some 2-3 minutes, because we have spent much of the time on this, on what you make of the conduct of the Auditor General going back to his office and seeking to access the office, taking, you know, video, as it were, which has now gotten into the media. I do not have evidence that he took the video himself, but obviously he permitted it. And people may be justified to say he planned it.
Look, the Auditor General, unlike most people, is directly employed by the people of Ghana. He's not employed by a ministry. He's not employed by the president. He's not employed by anybody. He's directly employed by the people of Ghana and accountable only to the Parliament of Ghana. And I believe he wants everything that he does to be transparent. And so what he goes to his office and the locks are changed, and he goes to the people who hide him, the people of Ghana, and he says to the people of Ghana, I went to my office and the locks are changed. Why is that a problem? To me, the bigger problem is the board chairman of the audit service who is at the Auditor General's office micromanaging. That's not the role of a board. A board
what has he going back to that office? He's on leave. What has he got to do in that office?
I believe he's not on leave. I believe that he wrote to the presidency that he's going to take some leave, and he believes that the accumulated leave that he did not use had expired. So at any point in time, in my opinion, he can decide to resume work. And if I were him, I'll resume work.
Well, he wrote to the president and said, He wrote to the president and said, out of courtesy for the office of the president,
Yes.
he was commencing his 2020 leave.
Yes.
By what we know, his leave is supposed to be for 40 plus days. Is that not so? 41? So if he had done...
Show me the letter or the statute, or where are you getting that 44 days from? Where are you getting it from?
I suppose that they have, if you want to use the Public Services Commission Human Resource Manual and Policy, you may find that maybe that's what is entitled. Is that not the basis on which the 167 days have been calculated?
I don't know the basis. That's why I'm asking you, show me something that says the Auditor General has to take 44 days leave every year. I mean, sometimes we just accept things that are told us without trying to probe that matter. We need to see that. Look, Samson, constitutional officers are sui generis. They are employed by the people, and the laws that apply to you and I do not necessarily apply to them. So when the Constitution has said we have a president, there cannot be a subsidiary law which says the president must take a vacation of 44 days, and if he doesn't take that, we are going to send him home and then ask the vice president to act while the president is on this involuntary leave.
The question of compelling one to go on leave is a different matter and not a subject for this discussion, obviously. And
yeah, but you have brought it up with these 44 days.
And you have clearly put your matter before the court. And like you said from the beginning, you have a lot of respect for the judges. And you just gave me an education about something about their epistolary jurisdiction, that they would deal with this matter and give us a conclusive end. But whilst the Auditor General may be sui generis, like you say, are you suggesting that he's not subject to law? Are you suggesting that he's above the law? People don't understand that. A posturing that suggests that in his absence the office is dead?
No. There's nobody who is above the law. In fact, if you recall, not too long ago, the Auditor General was held in contempt in a high court.
That's right.
So he is accountable. He is accountable to Parliament. He is accountable to the courts. He may surcharge someone, but if he surcharges you, you have the right to appeal that in a court. So there's a system. And we have to work through the system. I'm not suggesting, even remotely, that the Auditor General is above the law. Nobody. There will be no way I will make that suggestion. But I'm suggesting that the Constitution says he is not subject to direction or control by anyone, including the Audit Service Board and the President.
Do you go back to your office when you're on leave?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That's why I'm telling you, the nature of my work is such that even when I'm on leave, I'm working. That is the nature of the work of the Auditor General. Even when he's on leave, his deputies are supposed to be communicating information with him. It's like the president. Just because the president is on leave doesn't mean we can lock him out of the office and then the vice president decides what to do. No, constantly.
He goes on leave.
Update him when the president is on leave.
He goes on leave, and a day after he commences his leave, he goes back to that office, picks a letterhead from that office, replies the president, and they say the board takes a decision that they don't want that to occur again. For him to be on leave and to still access the office in the manner he did, he could come back and then there will be an allegation that something is missing from his office. So they did this to protect the office for himself. You don't agree with their way of handling it?
Samson, please read Article 187. And then you see that the Constitution created an office of the Auditor General and then the person of an Auditor General. Then you read Article 188. Article 188 creates an Audit Service Board But that board is not the board of the Auditor General. It couldn't be, because the Auditor General is an independent office. That board is the board of the Audit Service. The board of the Audit Service has no standing to issue any directives to the Auditor General, because to do that will be to allow somebody to direct the Auditor General, which would be inconsistent with Article 187. So the whole structure, where people think the Audit Service Board is a board of the Auditor General, is flawed. It's flawed. That's why we are having all these problems.
All right. Thank you. Hold on there. And before I go to my other guests in the studio, I'll just read a portion of the law that Professor Asare invites us to read. Article 187 says there shall be an Auditor General of Ghana whose office shall be a public office. Then he's responsible for, it says 2, the public accounts of Ghana and of all public offices, including the courts, the central and local government administrations, of the universities and public institutions of like nature, of any public corporation or any other body or organization established by an act of parliament, shall be audited and reported on by the Auditor General. For the purposes of the job he will do, the Constitution says, for the purposes of Clause 2 of this article, the Auditor General or any person authorized or appointed for the purpose by the Auditor General shall have access to all books, records, returns, and other documents relating or relevant to the accounts. The accounts of Ghana and of all other persons or authorities referred to in Clause 2 of this article shall be kept in such form as the Auditor General shall approve. Then he goes on and speaks about the fact that he will be accountable to Parliament. You do, Parliament's Public Account Committee shall look at his work, among others. And of course, many of you know by now that his office, by way of removing him, is akin to a justice of the Superior Court, which means that by Article 164, he can only be removed through a certain process and not by a president or parliament or anything like that. So, Kweku, should he have gone to that office? We hear he said he wanted to go pick his constitution because he needed to go to court the next day. Should he have gone there in the first place? Should they have changed his locks?
Well, before I answer that question, let me make a preliminary point. See, there are very serious issues at the courts as we speak relative to the independence, the scope and coverage or limits of the Auditor General. They are the Supreme Court. I'm sure you know.
There are about 3 cases pending at the same time there.
Yes. The proceed on leave directive by the President is also there. The statutes of an acting Auditor General is also there. It's related. Then we have at the lower courts also some issues. The Crow matter, which went to the Supreme Court based on a referral by the High Court. And it's back to the High Court. The substantive case relative to the Crow matter is still pending.
That's right.
At the High Court. We have also some issues between the Auditor General and UOCO. Remember, the Public Procurement Authority probe investigation into some procurement matters. And the Auditor General later was challenging the UOCO that you don't have the right to investigate me. UOCO said we have the right. That is also pending at the High Court, the court below. So there are serious issues, both constitutional and non-constitutional, pending at our courts. I think the focus should be there. And it's important because when they are determined it will help us looking forward what to do. Corporate governance, all those things relative to the audit service board, and office of the Auditor General. These are very important things, and I'm happy that these things are in the court and being litigated. And we should all be committed to it. Now, I find it very difficult to take my focus away from there and bring it to this needless dramatization of change of keys or locks. I find it very difficult. Look, I don't even see the relationship. The Auditor General, and that's the key point. I'm going to be very frank with you. You know that I'm one of those who backs him and have done so for quite some time. But have refused to just follow anyhow anything he does or says. And I think it's also important that his attention is called to some of these things. Look, you want to go to the office, you are on leave, accumulated leave. I'm not one of those who said never step in the office, assuming there's something very important for even personal document that you might have forgotten. And so you want to go for it. If it's official document, I'm not going to stand so much in his way, even though there you must deal with the acting Auditor General. I know some people don't recognize that animal, quote unquote, called acting Auditor General. But you have deputies who are still at work. And if there was good human relations, I'm assuming that there is, then there should be no difficulty for you at all to inform somebody that I'm on my way. And indeed, I'm told that he did call the acting Auditor General and told him he was on his way to the office to pick some documents. The acting Auditor General, and this is subject to verification, of course, said, I have no difficulty. You could come. So he proceeded. It was when he went and then the key couldn't work that he got upset and went back to the acting Auditor General,
right,
who indicated to me that, yes, based on some security reasons, a leakage of a certain letter and other matters, we've had a directive from the board to change the locks. But the keys are available for you. So I don't see this thing about lockout. I've checked the Labor Act. I've read the legal definitions of lockout. What happened is not a lockout.
I think it's just used for English usage, yeah, not in the legal term.
I know, but you must explain it. In such a discussion forum, we need to do the definition right.
Okay.
It is not a lockout. And indeed, the change of the locks too were not done covertly or Nicodemously. It was done in the full glare of the Auditor General Secretariat staff, supervised by the Director of Administration.
Should he have been informed about it?
Should he? Yeah, you can concede to that. He could have been informed. But I'm saying that that itself is not critical, because when he wanted to go there, he called. He made a call to the acting. The acting said, please come. And when he went and he couldn't open, he went back to the acting. And the acting said, oh, I thought your secretary, because no Auditor General takes his keys home. I've checked. It's not a standard office protocol. No Auditor General takes his keys home.
We are not told that he takes his keys home. We are not told that.
Yeah, so this key, where did he get it from?
So
where did they get the key that he was using
So they tell us that the keys were being handed to, is it secretary? But now they have decided the new keys, if he wants them, he could get them from, is it the finance department or somewhere?
The new keys were, after the locks were changed, the new keys were given to the secretary. The secretary, and I can understand her, in view of the noise about leakage and things, declined, even though occasionally if she wanted to go into the office to file papers, she did go for the key. So she declined out of fear, I suspect. So the keys were then given to the deputy.
Because you're touching it
yes,
so
I'm sorry.
often.
This thing is disturbing, but what can we do? We have to live with it, you know. So that it was the keys were sent to one of the deputies.
You start touching yourself.
Okay, responsible for finance and administration, because they also have the authority over the estates unit.
Right.
And she said, look, I don't have a safe in my office, but there's a safe at the cashier's office. So it was sent to the cashier's office. The point I'm making is that nobody had put obstacles in the way of the Auditor General from entering his office So when he went back to tell the acting Auditor General, the acting Auditor General redirected out. He even volunteered to go himself, to go and take the keys for him.
Yeah.
And then the Auditor General said, look, I'm no longer interested in accessing the keys to the office.
Is he justified to be unhappy about such a thing having been done to his office without
it is petty.
without his consultation?
It is petty. You can get dissatisfied, but you do not overreact. You do not overreact by dramatizing the thing and videoing it and putting it out on mainstream media as well as social media. It is unnecessary. It's needless. It's comical. And we ought to speak our minds on some of these things and be direct. Where he's right, let's support him. Where he's wrong, those of us who think he's wrong, let's tell him. But the substantive issues are different.
Right.
And they are being litigated upon in the courts. For the national interest, we all have to wait, we all have to look into it. But these petty things, this needless dramatization, that has the effect of subjecting the Office of the Auditor General himself, the Audit Service Board, and the Audit Service itself to public ridicule. Unwarranted, needless public ridicule. We must speak out against such things.
Professor Jampo, so
you know what is kept in that office? The assets declaration forms and liabilities. They are all in that office.
Okay. Of course, very important.
Very important. Sensitive thing.
They are never to be opened unless there's an issue. So and even if there's an issue, it will take charge.
Of course.
To have them opened up.
Of course, we are trying to do some reforms in Parliament now. The reforms which we all support, I believe. But let's not joke with the sensitivity of that office and the records in that office.
Is that not the more reason if you want to change the locks to that office? He must have prior knowledge and be consulted, because if you change the keys and anything happened, you could claim the thing had happened before you changed the keys.
I do not know about how the protocols work here. When he was going on leave, did he hand over? I'm sure he did.
Yes, he was asked to hand over by the president. Asked him hand over, so he had to hand over.
Hand over. There is an inventory of things that are there. Things in the files that are coming forward.
It's most unlikely that he was asked to leave, and I think he had just a day or so and he left the office. It's most unlikely that there will be such an
Then
inventory.
You cannot hold him responsible if something went missing.
But it's his office.
If they didn't do the right, no, it is not his private office. My goodness, that's a public office. He will come, he will go, different auditor generals will come.
In the meantime, he's the one. In the meantime, it's his office.
Yes, I agree. But he wasn't locked down. That's why when he called the acting auditor general that I was on my way, he was said, come on, come. Nobody stopped him.
Right.
Because he is not being locked out in the real sense of the word. He has not been sacked, and indeed he cannot be sacked anyhow. We all know that.
Do you think he's also justified in saying, once you have changed the locks, and you want me to take these changed keys to enter this place, I am unsure. If I take it and I enter, later you may have done something, tampered with some documents, and you say, because I came in, I did it. That's why he didn't want to do it.
Because of poor human relations, mistrust, and things that have entered the system. Otherwise, this is so needless. Because look, this is the Auditor General. He's come. He can go in there alone. You don't trust, he goes in there with somebody else. But to be honest, it's because there are underlying factors of mistrust and poor human relations. Look, the contempt case, you read the judgment. I'm sure you've seen the judgment, the High Court judgment. There was a situation where he had been sacked, but he said the secretary or so put it in a pile of papers, and it lasted about a month or two before he could find it. Sometimes it depends on the culture that you have of management that you've put in place in the office. This ought not to have happened, and the court told him that you cannot say because you are busy doing a report for Parliament, and two, because your secretary mixed it up with other papers, it took you more than 1 month to know that you had a court obligation. What kind of office is that?
But you know that happens.
If it's but I'm on such a serious matter like the Crow matter, which has become politicized in a way.
So
I think we should speak out on some of these things.
You have sat in the courtroom a number of times, and you have heard some lawyers even come in and say, oh, this process has been served on your office. And the lawyer says, oh, it hasn't come to my attention yet, even though it's been served on their office.
Yes,
not a good excuse, though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You just settled the matter.
All right. Now, Prof, what's your reading of everything that's going on? For some, this is a vindication that he simply has been asked. Like Professor Kukwasari will say, the legal term, constructive dismissal. Constructive dismissal is where we have not written actually to say you have been dismissed, but we are doing things that gives you an indication that we don't need you around the place.
Well, I think this is another strand or another aspect of the issue, but I was interested in where Kukubako went, and we must look at that and then look at other issues in addition to what Professor Kuku Asare has also raised. I believe that it's a fundamental issue of mistrust between the Auditor General and then the powers that be. As he rightly indicated, if you are going to your office, for some reason, they thought it fit to change the locks. And they also informed you that, look, the locks have been changed. And you went there, and indeed it's been changed. There wasn't supposed to be any fanfare or a media issue of, of that. But sending the media there to video you trying to insert your keys into the lock and saying that it's been tampered with or changed blows the whole issue out of proportion. So you see, right from the word...
That small bit, before you proceed, sorry for this. Do you suspect that this Auditor General may have done this for a strategic purpose? That the keys to his office have been changed without his knowledge, and perhaps somebody has whispered to him, he wants to go and gather the evidence and keep, just so in future, anything comes up, he will have the ocular proof, hard evidence, to show that, in fact, the locks were changed. So you see, he puts the key in, and then you hear him explaining. You see that the original key, it is a square, this one is like this, it's not entering. Do you suspect it's strategic?
Well, I don't know.
For preservation of evidence.
Well, but the point is that it wasn't, I'm not sure that he went there and then suddenly got to know that the keys have been changed. As Kuku said, and I have no reason to doubt what he's saying, that he had spoken to the acting Auditor General, okay, and he had been told. And if it is true that no Auditor General goes to his house with his keys, and when he went to the Secretariat, I'm sure they should have given him the right keys. Maybe he took the wrong key. And so when you went there and it was not opening, the best thing to do is, look, it's not opening. And they told you that just for X and Y reasons, we have, we decided to change the lock. And so I'm thinking the simple thing that could have been done was, so give me the new key, and then you go on.
Dean of European Studies at the University of Ghana. You are on leave. You want to go back to your office to fix something. Of course, like Professor Kukwasari says, all of us, our offices cannot be equated to that of the Auditor General because that's a sensitive place, very sensitive. You get to your office and the locks have been changed. What will be your reaction?
Well, you express a certain surprise, but the point is that if there is an acting person there, or there is a superior, another person taking charge, the best thing is to talk to the person. And you see, these things are not the real issues.
That other person is not using your office. They have their office already. Okay?
Yeah, but the point is that if you went there and it is locked, and then you have somebody you can talk to, and you actually went out of your way to speak to the person, and the person explained. I think if there is trust and there is a cordial relations, then the issues must be settled there.
We know there's no trust.
There has been, there is no trust, and I wanted to go to why there is no trust. Okay, there's been these issues of lack of trust right from the one that he assumed office. And my explanation to some of these things, taking it or radically departing from what Kweku and Professor Asare have said, that you see, one of the manifestations of lunatics or politics has got to do with extensive powers of appointment of the executive president. And they believe that once assuming office, the president must appoint virtually everybody. Now, with the last minute appointment of Domino to office during when the NDC was exiting, it was seen as an attempt to foster a certain quote-unquote monster on the new regime that was assuming office. So if you were leaving office and you appointed somebody, and then we perceive him as somebody who is going to make things difficult for us, it set the stage for the kind of relationship that have existed between...
No, but this is the Auditor General who was praised by the government in Parliament for saving this country a whopping, is it 5 million or billion out of the, yes, out of the contracts that were reassessed.
The kinds of things that politicians say when they mount the platform and they have the opportunity to speak is different from the kinds of feelings and the perceptions that their own followers and people around them would have. And I'm saying that I've been talking to people ever since these issues, broke. And you speak to them and they make it known to you that, look, right from day one, we've never trusted this man. And what worsens the case is that, you see, his own ways of going about his work radically departs from how other Auditor Generals have behaved. He is always going to the media. I mean, I know Professor Edward Diajaman, when he was an Auditor General, I don't think that he was always going to the media. And so once you are always exposing and then you are also making your exposés known to the media and all that, it fits into
was he always going to the media, well, or that it is his office that has made history and has been empowered by the judgment procured by Occupy Ghana to surcharge people and disallow expenditure. So when he does it, it gets to the public domain. He surcharged the senior minister over the Crow matter, and his audits have rather come to the public and gotten him in the public, not as though he has been in the public. Is that not the case?
I don't think that the kinds of, the good work he's doing, haven't been done by previous Auditor Generals before. I'm sure others have done similar acts that didn't find their way into...
We don't have evidence of that.
We may not have, you may not know, but I'm saying that I'm sure things like that may have happened in time past, and we didn't find them so much. I'm not saying that getting
things
some
like
of these things...
surcharge and disallowance?
Well, there may be other things that are
There's
also
no
important.
evidence of that ever happening.
Well, that may be one, but I'm saying...
Until Occupy Ghana went to the courts, got a judgment from the Supreme Court, that further empowered him to be able to do so.
Yeah, but I'm saying surcharging and disallowing some of these things wouldn't be the only thing that the Auditor Generals will have to be doing.
Right.
In the conduct of their activities and their work, I'm sure they've done so many things from 1992.
That's right.
And some of these things never found their ways, into the public domain via the media. And I'm never saying that. I'm not saying that if you want to publicize or get some of your activities into the media, into the public domain via the media, it will be wrong. It's not wrong. But the point is that given that others haven't done that, and then you are doing that, I mean, that kind of issue or this kind of situation perpetuates or fits into the perception that, look, this man was brought in to come and worry us. And so if that is the case, then it set the stage for the kind of mistrust that is going on. Once there is that mistrust, then I had always prayed that, look, this Auditor General should be a saint in the discharge of his duties, because once people feel that you are there to worry us, then they will dig into everything that you do to see your fallibilities and use your fallibilities to, as a way of, getting you away or getting you out of job. And so for me, I think that right from the word go, given the way and manner he had conducted his work, and then given the fact that others feel that, look, we don't trust you, and such a sensitive position should not be occupied by somebody that we cannot trust, there's been surreptitious ways and means of digging into whatever we can find to use as a way to, tell you to step aside.
So the bigger issue would be that we do not clearly have precedence of an Auditor General who was exposing, quote unquote, the regime at the time, or that often we would rather know after the fact. But we have an Auditor General that we are seeing the government in power. He's doing work that they may be uncomfortable with. He's done work that they have praised him for because he saved the country millions of money. But this is perhaps the first time we are seeing an auditor, whilst in office, standing up to people in the political circles when they try to twist his arms about how he has to do his work. The matters got to a head. The board decided that they have to report to the presidency. And that's where people raise the question of conflict of interest of sort, where the board chair, who is a former Auditor General, who also exited in a manner that he might not be excited about, now in that office, gets the presidency to take the steps that have been taken to force him to go on leave. And we know their letters became public because things got very heated. Is he justified to have the suspicions he has? And are the others also justified to have the suspicions they have?
You see, so that's what I said earlier, that it's just a mistrust between them. He's justified to have the suspicions he has. And those who are also doing this are also justified because the timing for his appointment was so crucial. I mean, when they were just about leaving, they brought him. And so it's like, we have a certain monster for you. We're going to make things uncomfortable for you. I don't think that that may really be the case. If an Auditor General is really doing his work and is really exposing rot and corruption, it's something that we must all applaud. But there is a perception that, look, he may not be doing that genuinely. He is just interested in just exposing things and then also blowing them, out of proportion in the media, just as a way of, courting disaffection for us and making us lose our popularity.
How does that stick for an Auditor General whose sword cuts both ways as far as the political divide is concerned?
Well, if your sword cuts both ways, as far as the political divide is concerned, you are seen, I mean, all well-meaning Ghanaians and watchers will see you as an independent person. But the point is that once the regime, or some people within the regime feel that you were appointed by our predecessor, regardless of how effective your sword may be in cutting across the sides of the political divide, you see, if you cut that side, it will not be seen. But if you cut our side, because you are not appointed by us, and you see, the point is that going forward as a nation, we should know that appointment to key offices, appointment of independent public, officers would never be done by God. It will be done by political heads and leaders. And so let us tone down on the practice where if we didn't appoint you or you are appointed by a predecessor, we begin to see you with a certain eye and we try to do all we can to mistrust you and also to dig into your fallibilities and to use that as a way of treating you in a manner that...
We're talking about things we play the ostrich about, right? Anyway, so let me see if I can get you in 2 minutes each so we wrap up on this discussion. And the bigger issue is, what is the way forward? We need a resolution because Ghana must be the victor. The public accounts of Ghana must win. Integrity, independence, accountability, and this is an office of an anti-corruption office. That is what is important. Yes, Kuku?
Yeah, see, well, the Occupy Ghana's initiative by the Supreme Court was fantastic. And this Auditor General rode on it in a very conscious, deliberate way. And it was one of the reasons why people like us backed him. But if you check the records carefully, there was a certain, and that tells you why we were not doing well. In 2005-06, there was a surcharge and disallowance against the national lotteries authorities, and that was during the Diajman period. But it's so minimal if you're doing a comparative thing. So the Occupy Ghana thing was meant to consolidate that thing and get everybody moving, and I'm still for it. And the Auditor General did well going alongside it. But I'm not too sure whether we can say that this is the Auditor General, the only Auditor General in our history that has done things against an incumbent administration. So. Because look, something, read the audit reports that are sent to Parliament. You will see that there are a lot of things indicting MDAs and MMDAs. That the incumbent administrations are presiding over. So really, it is not true that this is the only Auditor General that is pronouncing things against people who belong to the sitting administration. The Osafumafu thing was brought to a forward banner and politicized, not by the Auditor General, but by interest groups, political interest groups especially. Look, that letter that leaked, the 2nd July letter, signed by the acting Auditor General, one of the deputies, was nothing but inspection of documents acknowledgement, which they signed to the Supreme Court. You know, the Supreme Court had asked that something should be done. So they sent it back there, and it has been sent back to the High Court. The substantive case is pending. But people interpreted that thing to mean that the acting Auditor General had purged Osafumafu of any allegations or findings, which was a fallacy.
And the story worked so well because
thank you.
Auditor General just left, and within few days of his leaving, then that comes in, they say the new guy has cleared Osafumafu.
It was a case of optical illusion. Nothing had happened. Okay, nothing had really happened in substance.
Okay.
So that's the point I'm making. That look, the cases in court, part of which my own contemporary hero, Kwekwe Azai, is part of, I'm okay with it in principle. And we'll all wait. The way forward you were asking will come through part of the cases in court. So we should all wait and see how the courts rule on those matters. But otherwise, look, this changing of locks, I find it difficult when people want to draw an organic link between that and the cases in court. I find it very difficult, hugely challenged to accept that. It has nothing to do with it. And I think the Auditor General, if he had handled the thing with a little bit of finesse, and not brought in audio and video and all those things, we will not be discussing this matter. Because it's so petty.
Okay. All right. No, it's your... Kweku. I was actually going to Kweku Asare, and then he made his final point. Yes, Professor Kweku Asare.
Thank you very much for giving me this platform. Let me state, and I want to be very emphatic about this, that my stand here is not about Daniel Domlevo, this Auditor General, or for that matter, the President, Nana Akufo-Addo. Both Domlevo and Nana Addo are good friends of mine, and this issue to me is not about them. My position would have been the same if Nana Addo was the Auditor General and Domlevo was the President. I'm here strictly because of my love for the Constitution, and mainly because I want the Constitution to be respected. Second, my stand is based on history. When you do a little bit of history and you understand the friction between Mr. Hinkrase, who was the first Auditor General, and President Nkrumah, and all the attempts to put the Auditor General under the Ministry of Finance, which failed, and so subsequent constitutions were emphatic that we need to have a completely independent Auditor General. And something that even explains partly why the Public Accounts Committee is always headed by the ranking member from the opposition party rather than the majority party, because people understand that money cannot be audited by the same people who are spending it. Third, Samson, no good auditor is loved by the people who he audits. I myself am an auditor, and I know that if you are doing your job, the people you are auditing are going to resist you because you are asking too many questions. But you don't ask too many questions because you don't like them or because you want to embarrass them. You ask too many questions because that is the nature of your job. Fourth, I believe that the Auditor General is entitled to leave, and sometimes he has to go on leave. However, I think that when he goes on leave, it is his prerogative to deputize somebody to act on his behalf, because he is the only one who is constitutionally seized with the power to be Auditor General. And as the Constitution itself says, he can deputize other people to perform his functions. Although he delegates part of his duties to them, he doesn't delegate the authority to them. Fifth, on the issue of lock, I don't like it. I don't think people will be saying the same thing if the president went on leave and his office was locked, or the lock to his office was changed. They won't be saying the same thing if it happened to the speaker. They won't be saying the same thing if it happened to the Chief Justice. We need a little bit of consistency. Why do you direct somebody to go on leave and that itself is disputed, and then you go ahead to change his law? This just raises the political temperature. It is not good. We must condemn it, and I condemn it.
Okay.
Fifth, I ask everyone to read the cases of William Brown and Apia Ofori to understand the importance the court itself has attached in previous cases to the office of the Auditor General. And some the last one. I want to thank very much my good friend and lawyer, Mr. Eric Alifo. I contacted him very late in the process, and he did 24 hours, 48 hours, hard work, putting everything together and filed the brief. I'm so grateful for the good work that he has done, and I really, really, really want to thank him using your platform.
Okay, great. Eric Alifo of Help Law Ghana, helping people who cannot afford legal services. Sorry, is he one who cannot afford services or what? You are helping him. Yeah, so you have your 2 minutes, and then we...
Well, I think the fundamental issues have been taken to court, and I am also one of those who believe that it is not within the right of the president or the executive arm of government to be directing or determining what must be happening to the Auditor General. And so I agree with Kweku Azar that going on a vacation and allowing a constitutional issue like this, a constitutional cancer like this to fester, in my view, would amount to judicial negligence. And so they should quickly look at
judicial negligence.
Yeah, because it is a serious issue that in my view must be given all the attention it deserves by our judiciary. And it's important that they rethink their vacation and see what they can do to bring a finality to the issue. And then the other important issue has been that, you see, when with these issues going on, we've had several civil society organizations coming in to make an appeal to the president, to rethink its stance.
Over 400 CSO leaders came together.
Yeah, and I am a bit disappointed that you have top brass within the ruling party, all of a sudden saying that they are pro-opposition CSOs and whatever they are saying. I mean, the president says, well, I'm an obit.
CDD, GII, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, somebody saying they are pro-opposition.
Yeah, I've heard people saying that they are pro-opposition CSOs. The president has simply said that he's unable to grant their wish or to listen to them. But you have people also going out of their way to say that, look, we can't listen to you because you are all in bed with the opposition party. And I think the practice of tagging CSOs simply because you do not agree with them is disingenuous, and it must be discontinued. And we must also take note of this, that you see, it cannot be that when all these CSOs are speaking with one voice, they are simply, saying so because they are opposed to the existing government. I don't think that is the case. And we should note that once you begin to do that, these are organizations that have support from floaters and from discerning people.
Anyway,
and so you do not ignore yourself so much
right.
to...
Thank you very much. I'm sure
why
that...
won't you let me finish something?
I'm sure you have 2 minutes to conclude. Okay, finish.
I'm saying that, so once you do that, and you are seen to be all of a sudden in opposition to them, you create a certain sense that you are a bit intolerant, and it may not work, in your favor.
But the CSOs don't know it all.
No, they don't know it all. But the point is that simply referring to them and their position as, look, coming from people who are in bed with the opposition party is disingenuous. And don't forget that when the NDC was in power, the same thing happened.
Okay.
They took active steps. Some of them brazenly said that we are going to destroy you, we are going to decimate you, we are going to destroy your sources of funding and all that. Now today they are crying that why the CSOs, why are they not supporting us now that they are in opposition? And so my point is that it is out of the quest and their desire to ensure that there is good governance, that you see them talking the way they are talking. And so I would urge the president, when the president started his office, he had an excellent relations with these civil society organizations. He created several platforms for him, for dialogue between civil society organizations and his office. That dialoguing platform, I can't see it any longer. But the point is, all hopes aren't lost. The president still has an excellent chance to listen to CSOs. And let's see how the judiciary also recall themselves from the vacation and to bring a finality to a serious constitutional issue like this.
All right, thank you very much. And as regards the Supreme Court, as and when they take a decision that they need to have a matter dealt with, they will do so. But as the laws are in place, it does appear that they would often follow how the law dictates what they have to do. Professor Kwesi Asare says that the Office of the Auditor General is sui generis. And we kept saying sui generis like lawyers will often say, which means it's a unique office and must be treated in a certain unique way. All right, we'll take a break here. When we return, there's a 90-year-old woman who has been lynched, and the police have made some arrests. We'll look at that briefly, and then we'll ask questions about the magic that Jane brings to the John tickets for the 2020 elections. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's the most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. My guest Dominic Kubako, Professor Warren Sport Jampo, and Professor Stephen Kukwasare, who just left us because he came on to discuss the matter that he's very passionate about. Now, YK Yeboah sends in a message, and it says that I have to disagree with you, Kekubako, on the notion that Domelevo's action was rather needless. You can't possibly support the change of locks of the office and blame the Auditor General for his reaction. We must deal with the roots of the problem, not the symptoms. The Auditor General is doing his work. If the government does what is right, they should not find any problem with this Auditor General. This Auditor General is loved by civil society, and we must support him if we want the rot around the corridors of political power in Ghana uprooted. This is from YK Yeboah, of the leader of the CPG, YK Ansa Yeboah.
You sent the same thing to me.
Okay, I know you guys are friends. Okay, if he calls me kid bro, I need to know how old he is. All right. Now, Kakra says that, but the submissions about the man taking his keys home, imagine if in fact he had taken his keys home. What exactly is this law that says you cannot take your key home when you're on leave? Where are the documents from which we are taking inspiration from about one keeping his keys or taking them with him? Na Mahami says, why inform him after changing the locks to his office? Couldn't you inform him before doing that? Hashtag Newsfile. And these are messages from Twitter. SK Koranchi at RAS1 says, who is Abdul Malik Kubako and why are we taking his account of what happened at the Office of the Auditor General? Why are we doing this to ourselves as a country? Hashtag Newsfile. You tweet at Ifok Kofi. You say, Mr. Bako, your man says we need a little bit of consistency. Again, my goodness, the trivial and infantile decision to change the locks without informing the Auditor General is unpardonable. It could have saved all this drama. The board should have had a little bit of fineness. This is equally petty. Could be objective about this matter. General, hashtag General at Skutu. You say the Auditor General trusts no one but himself. He might as well want to go and pursue his farming dream. Hashtag Newsfile. Check at 1K right. I honestly don't understand why Domino kept in office till today. Is kept in office till today. Someone who was appointed 8 days before the NDC left office. Drama. Hashtag Newsfile. Akwesi Preko at AGI is 60 says, and what has been achieved actually? You have to do what is expected of you as an Auditor General with integrity and professionalism, irrespective of who appointed you. Hashtag Newsfile. Frimpong Benny at Frimpong 30. Right, hashtag Newsfile. The audit office operates from Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So at what time and day did Domino go to the office to pick whatever documents that the office was closed? Why choose a day or time? The office was closed to go there. Okay, so clearly you don't appreciate what has gone on. Hashtag General at Skuku, the AG is needlessly petty and full of senseless drama. Hashtag Newsfile. Dr. Charles Rekubrobe at I Tarzan says, surely the questioning of accumulated leave does not need the Supreme Court to decide and cannot be allowed to either to linger for so long. The time is decided. That's why the time is decided. It has no value or effect. Okay, by the time it is decided, it has no value or effect. That's what you wanted to type. Hashtag Newsfile, hashtag Auditor General at Joy 99.7 FM. Ephraim at Ephraim Robert, you say, don't you think Ghana Presidency is breaching Article 187, Clause 7A, which states that the Auditor General shall not be subject to the direction, control of any other person or authority. On what authority was the Auditor General asked to proceed on leave? Hashtag Newsfile. Okay, there are those of you who are retweeting others, so allow others to have a little say. I'll just take two more messages and we proceed. Nana Hesse Ojiri says, so why can't Professor Jampo take the President's answer as the ultimate national position on the matter of the CSO's disagreement with the focus on the persons whose identity he has not been able to disclose? And oh, did the CSO see anything wrong with the contempt conviction of the Auditor General? Why are they yet to speak about it? Okay, so I get this. This is rather from Yao. And I think I missed the Nana Hesse. Okay, Nana Hesse's message says, the allocation by previous government to audit service was 9 million. Under President Akufo-Addo, the allocation has gone up by 100%. That is 19 million. Domino himself said this current Akufo-Addo administration has resourced and was showering praises for the government. Why the sudden narration that government never treated Domino well? Let's call a spade and not a big spoon. Nana Hesse Ojiri sent in that one. I suppose we can now move on. Manche Bruce in Takrade says that, in my opinion, a public office is not a job. It is an opportunity to do something for the public. Daniel Domino is hardworking, but enjoys playing to the gallery. He should not allow his emotions to override his judgment. What was he seeking to achieve with the video? His personalization of his office isn't exemplary at all. Okay, I suppose you may say the same of the special prosecutor. All right. Now, let's get to, there's a video in town, you have seen it. I can't watch it, so I have not watched it. And when on Joy they are playing it, I just hope it's not what they are going to play, so I just shut my eyes. Let's listen and look at this, and then come to look at the issue briefly.
Make an appropriate contribution also to the Directive Foundation to express my own revulsion at the awful tragic act that has occurred in this region. It is vital, as the regional minister said, that it should not happen again, and we should all work together to ensure that never again do such acts disfigure the face of our nation. I hope that the quick response of the police will lead to the rapid administration of justice in this unfortunate matter.
Right. So you saw just a gist of something, and once they used the whip on her, just about once or so, we cut it, and that's for a good reason. For those of you who have the heart to watch and have seen the full footage, I don't know. So the police initially appeared to have been very laxed or not paid attention at all in that region in Kafalga. And then there began to be a campaign. The women's grouping in the country, various leaders, President Rawlings, and President Akufo-Addo later spoke about it also. You had Nana Jinopoko-Adjumah, the vice presidential candidate, also speaking about it. This should never happen in this country again. So the police, some pressure came upon them. The IGP sent a special team to the region, the Savannah region. And then now we are told that a number of people have been arrested. 13 persons are supposed to be on the run. Some 5 people are supposed to have been arrested. A chief also involved. And then suddenly I read a story I still can't understand, that the people were taken to court, and then somehow 2 years jail sentence was passed on somebody, and then something else happened. Okay, so start with Professor Jampo on this.
Well, thank you, Samson. This morning I almost took the decision not to be here because I woke up and my mother was telling me that she slipped and fell in the bathroom when she was bathing. And, you know, the old people, they sit when they are bathing, so she said she was sitting on a certain plastic chair, and while sitting she fell. And my heart, I was so worried, I was so disturbed and all that. And so,
and how old is your mom?
My mom is 75.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I was.
This one is 90.
Yeah, I was very worried that she fell. How will she be feeling and all that? Now, you look at a 90-year-old woman, and you want to be slapping her, and you want to be whipping her, and you do so to force her life out of her.
She's a queer dente.
And you give a justification or explanation that you are probably undergoing a certain form of religious experience, and so you could not remember whatever you were doing. I think there's two fundamental issues here in a developing country. If you read Michael P. Todaro, he talks about the factors or the attributes or features of every developing country. Two of them. You see, massive public ignorance. The other one is the high belief in superstition. Okay, you can see that clearly, thinking that somebody is...
So let me make a quick correction. I'm in a hurry. I've read a lot of stories, raked up a lot of stuff to read about the ongoing situation. And I am thankful also to Angela Jamnaboaje. She's fed me with a lot of information. And out of one case in which a witch doctor was arrested, that is in the case where that witch doctor is reported to have pleaded guilty and was sentenced into prison for 2 years. I brought that in as part of this.
Okay.
This one, nobody has been sentenced yet.
Well, so I think we should fundamentally be looking at the height of public ignorance in the body politic, and then also be thinking about how we have extolled superstitious beliefs and practice. Because I kept wondering that the people who were standing there and looking on whilst this was going on, what was running through their minds? I mean, why were they standing there? And I'm more angry with those who looked on than even those who are perpetuating some of these things. And I think that I'm happy that some arrests have been made. But like I said, as a nation, we cannot develop if you have some segment of the population or a high chunk of the population being ignorant and also believing in needless superstition. And it is important that we do something about it. How do we curtail public ignorance? How do we socialize people into believing that some of these things are not true, they are just superstitious, and that we must find ways of scaling over and above them? I think it's important that regimes, governments, the establishments, policymakers, local authorities and district assemblies, it's important that they get socialized about some of these things, and then also try to scale down the education. That it is not about witchcraft, it's not about a witch doctor, it's not about anything, it's about human rights and the need to protect the invaluability, invaluability of rights. It is very important, and I'm saying that until we do more to deal or to tackle public ignorance and the belief in needless superstition, some of these things may go. I mean, when my former student Major Mahama was murdered like that, I thought the whole nation saw it, and in my view, because of how we all spoke against it, it was something that was never going to repeat itself. Or you want to say that that part of Ghana is so far from town that they didn't hear about Major Mahama's gruesome murder, and so some people want to do that. I think the excuse and explanation given by the lady that she herself cannot understand what she did, and it was some spirit that entered her, I don't think it constitutes an enough mitigation, in any court of competent jurisdiction. Something must be done to set a certain example for all to want to follow. But what for me is crucial is how we can work as a nation to tackle massive public ignorance and then also the needless belief in superstition. I've always said that, you see, in this fight against COVID-19, one of the reasons why it doesn't seem that we are winning is the prevalence of public ignorance. some people do not understand why they should comply with any of the protocols. And some people also feel, I went to my hometown going to buy fish among the fishmongers, telling them that please put your mask. Say, no. Paying for MPP from paying for it's a disease for the top echelons, of the political, order, and you can see massive public ignorance. And so, until we work hard as a nation to tackle public ignorance, all efforts that are initiated by government for development will be stalled, and people would be seen to be rather against those efforts and all that. So let us tackle public ignorance, and let us socialize people about certain beliefs and certain practices. Socialize people against certain beliefs and certain practices that are inimical to human rights and that are inimical to our growth as a nation. And I think if we do that, then some of these things will not recur. Otherwise, you tackle it on ad hoc basis. They keep recurring, and then human rights are violated unnecessarily.
Okay, so you mentioned the Major Mahama situation, which one would have thought was used to do a lot of public education against mob injustice. I still insist we should call it mob injustice, not mob justice. In the midst of all of that, will you be surprised to learn that what just happened, it is because that has come into the media. That's why you are talking. Otherwise, it is going on.
Yeah, I want to believe. I believe it may be going on. And still, it is because people are ignorant and people have a certain belief in some needless superstition. And, well, it is sad, to accept or to admit that fact that some of these things may even be going on, even now that we are talking. The only difference is that you don't have a media house there to unearth or to expose them and all that. And so we should not only be thinking, or we shouldn't just be happy that some arrests have been effected and some people are going to be dealt with, but in and around the area, and also in all the hinterlands of the country where some of these things go on, it should be a duty, our duty as a people, as a nation, people who are well lettered and people who are well socialized into acceptable societal norms and order. Let us go there to try to socialize people about, against some of these things, that we cannot have a nation whose people would always be taking laws into their own hands to be killing people simply because they feel they are witches or they are wizards. And I keep saying, so are men also not wizards? And when a man is found to be a wizard, do you have he being treated like that? When a man is a wizard, he's powerful. Yeah. But when a woman is a witch, she must be brutalized or killed. And I think it is something that is absolutely unacceptable. It's just a feature, one of the features of a developing country. We believe in needless superstitions and all that. But we must, whilst we try as a people, whilst government try hard to put food on the table and to develop people, we must also not be oblivious of some of these things that would work hard against some of the interventions that governments try to put in place. If there is belief in needless superstitions, if there is massive public ignorance, irrespective of whatever government does, you would have some of these people influenced by these superstitions to work against whatever government is doing to develop them. And the earlier we think about these things and take action, the better for us as a people.
Okay. And I discovered that you were qualifying, anytime you mention superstition, needless superstition. That's to suggest that there's some superstition you...
Well, superstition is superstition. It doesn't, if it doesn't exist, it doesn't exist. If it is not true, it is not true. Okay. But some of them are a bit tolerable. But some like these, it's needless, and I cannot see myself,
Right. So as you have become aware of the number of suspects have come up to 6 who are supposed to be in custody. I suppose by now some of them would have been granted bail. According to the police, all the suspects admitted that the priestess had invited, the priestess in Kafaba, that's the Savannah region, had invited, you know, the incidents, so to speak. They are Haruna Anes, who is 34, Isifa Tanko, who is 35, Shaibu Montala, who is 29, Suleiman Ali, who is 35, and Isifa Zakibo, who is 32. So these guys just murdered their grandma. Now, Koku, like Professor Jampo said, we know the lady, the priestess, now suggesting that she was in some trance. You know, is it Cornelius being spoken about to go to, Paul being asked to go to Cornelius's house? Yeah. She was in some trance, and that she didn't know what was going on. And Prof is talking about mitigation. Now, the only situation where the law does not see an individual capable of committing any criminal offense is when you are under 12 years. If you are not under 12 years, you are deemed by criminal law to know the consequences of what you do, and therefore you'll be punished for it. What do you say?
Well, due process must take place. It's an act of criminality. They've murdered an innocent 90-year-old woman. It's an act of crime. They must be punished. I'm happy to hear that the police have made some arrests. I'm sure they are proceeding with investigations. They'll build a docket and go to the appropriate forum, which is the court of law. Yes, so that should be done, and we should see it being done, and also publicized as part and parcel of creating a culture of deterrence.
Okay.
However, I agree with Prof. That on its own will not be the lasting cure because of the nature of the society in which we live, the beliefs of people, the cultural, customary, and all sorts of things.
A society where there are witches' camps.
Exactly.
Where only old women are dumped in there.
Yes. Even though I appreciate that itself is a bit, you know, it's like attempting to help those in distress. That's the paradox of it. In the sense that, you know, you couldn't leave them alone. They'll be subjected to this kind of ordeal by their own relatives or people around them. There's a certain protective shield there. It's not good enough. We should be looking at a situation where we eliminate those things. If they are old people, they are disabled, they can't, there are homes. If you go outside, there are homes for old people.
Right.
Huh? They are catered well for, well organized, well catered for. So the fact that the person is old, maybe is not in distress, families have even deserted him or her, we should be able to build a society, a welfareist type of society where we can accommodate these people and let them, you know, live well. So it goes beyond the criminal justice prescription, even though we cannot ignore it and we cannot relegate it because this is a law-governed society. But we have to look to the larger picture, the public education, socioeconomic transformation. You see, there's also an underlying economic matter there. So poverty is all part of these things. And then the kind of customs and beliefs. We've tried on some levels. Female, is it genital mutilation? We've passed some legislation, chocosi. We've done some of those things. Not in terms of a very comprehensive solution. But as a nation, we'll be moving towards widows. You know how we treat some of our widows. So all these things are part and parcel of the cultural makeup. And it takes a hell of a time and space to resolve these things. Whilst we are moving towards that, and we should be doing more towards in that direction, let the criminal justice system also do the appropriate things, and let's publicize them to help build the culture of deterrence. You know?
So
I haven't watched. This is the first time I've been able to see it.
Yeah, I've even tried not to watch up to this point. So I was going to ask you, on a larger scale and in a concerted effort, what can we do beyond leaving this kind of education and intervention to, you know, NGOs like the ARC Foundation? There's a Center Institute who are doing some of these kind of jobs. And it looks like the state itself, in a very organized manner, is not doing much about it. Yes. We are told that this priestess, who is known as Fatima, actually she hails from the Upper West region and is based in Yeji, in the Bon East region, and has done, so she's on TV talking with the handcuffs, and that she has done worse things in a number of communities in the Savannah region before this viral video. We are told that the soothsayer seen in the video, before moving into Kafaba, her presence in the community made residents jittery and worried, since anyone could fall victim to her witchcraft exposure. The place of abode of Fatima in all the communities became a beehive of activities as sick people, barren women, mad and mentally retarded people, and so on, visited her for soothsaying on reasons for their own conditions. Members of the community Fatima visited are tight-lipped over her activities, you know. So she's been doing this, and she gets invited when situations come and check this for us, and she pronounces, I have my suspicion, having read the body of information that I have been supplied, that this goes on in many other places in the country.
I agree with you. It's a combination of poverty, illiteracy, ignorance, superstition, all put together.
Yes.
You know, and it's not, these are not things that you can easily, you know, do away with just by, you know, a sweep of a hand. You can't. It's deep-rooted. It's entrenched. It's a reflection of the level of development in terms of our society.
Right.
And it has to be we have to take it serious. You just mentioned the part of the role of the state.
Right.
Perhaps the state has not prioritized, you know, that area in terms of how to handle it. I know Shraj, if you read the Human Rights Commission, some of their reports over the years, they've been handling some of these things, you know, and publishing them, but to what effect? Maybe for research students like us.
We have known over the period that they have done work at the witches' camp.
Exactly.
You know, but we know that the place still exists.
It still exists.
People are going to dehumanize, and Justice Bedu did a documentary for JoyNews. Very young people's lives are being wasted. Little girls are asked to go there and provide for their grandparents who live there. So, no school for them, and they virtually inherit those women.
Yes. It's part of, it's become like a cultural thing. We are living with it, you know. But I think the state, for that matter, governments that come and go, haven't done enough prioritization relative to that area. We've built some institutions, Shraj is an example, but we haven't even equipped them that well. So they handle some of these things, and they leave it just on their records for us to go and research into. You know? Yes, that's not sufficient. You know? That's all. I wouldn't sit here and say I have an answer as to how to deal with it. I can just do a theoretical appreciation of it. But there are people out there with the appropriate competence and institutional capacity to, you know, combine their efforts for us to try and do something about this.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say?
No, I just wanted...
Brian Boabings asked me a very interesting question. Have you ever seen a rich man's mother tagged a witch before? The backwardness must stop immediately. Let's hustle so that when God blesses our mothers with old age for them to enjoy the fruits of their labor, they wouldn't be called a witch and lynched. Samuel Brian Boabing. Sensing that. Interesting, isn't it?
I think it's revealing, and no rich man's mother would be called a witch. And so if you are poor, you would necessarily, you are poor and aged, you would necessarily become a witch. It's something that is not acceptable. But I wanted to add to what Kweku just said, that maybe the Shraj itself has not done much. I remember I did some studies when I was doing my master's about the Shraj, and they would recount some of these things that they have done, visiting witch camps and trying to deal with people whose rights have been abused and all that. But they keep telling you that we don't have money to sustain that exercise, and sometimes we are unable to even go to court to deal with people who have perpetrated some of these rights abuses and all that. And so we must also treat it as a priority, as a people, as a nation, being careful and deliberately putting in place measures to deal with some of these things that, in my view, are as a result of public ignorance and all that. Let us get rid of, try to minimize ignorance. We cannot do so completely, but let's try to minimize it so that people, I mean, if Brian Boaben's text, gets is used as an educational tool campaign to areas where some of these things happen, people may be knowledgeable. People may be they will become awake to some of the realities, that how come that the mothers of rich people are always not branded as witches, and only the aged and the poor. And so I think we must also bring this to the fore and sort of prioritize it.
But the two of you agree that one of the ways to end this and end it well is to ensure that there is publicity of the processes that go on. Eventually, when the court gives its judgment or convicts the people, it should be publicized. The whole community should get to know. They have actually charged them for murder instead of the trial by ordeal. If they had charged them with trial by ordeal, they are looking to a maximum of 10 years. But having charged them with murder, they are looking for death. And that's the best way. And those who are just observing, they too are in trouble. They should be up to 3 years.
Yeah, they should be, even, I don't know, but I think they should be. I mean, standing there, I just want to assume, without just admitting, that the lady who was doing this was truly undergoing some religious trance experience, so she didn't know what she was doing. But those of you who were standing there, were they also experiencing that same religious experience? I don't think so. So the point is that something drastic must be done, and when this is done, whatever is done must be made public enough. Okay, Major Mahama's case, we did a whole lot of noise about it. Afterwards, I think there was one monument that was erected somewhere. As it two or one? I think one in the was there one in Dencha or something? But I've seen one at the airport hills.
Right. Okay. So we understand that as President Akufo-Addo went there, the regional municipal or the authorities there have assured that they are actually going to also erect a foundation in her memory and so on and so forth. But the most important is to punish the perpetrators of this senseless conduct. We'll take a break. When we return, what magic does Jane bring to the John ticket for the 2020 elections? You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And I must indicate that the lady we showed in handcuff is actually an accomplice and not the priestess. The police are still doing their work. Let's hope they will get everybody and they will face the law accordingly. Now, shortly, I'll read some of your messages on this matter, but it's worth reading a portion of Professor Ken Atefo's book on fighting armed robbery in Ghana at page 145. There is something he tells all of us and draws our attention to what the nation must do, otherwise we are doomed. So Professor Atefa writes, instant mob justice impinges on national security. It endangers the lives of the citizenry. You are involved if you think it doesn't affect you. Its administration is not founded on facts, proving through the regular judicial process. Virtually, anyone can easily be mistaken for a criminal and summarily punished. Inchirado of Joy faced this once a while. Virtually anyone can easily be mistaken for a criminal and summarily punished. The lynching of an innocent and highly regarded young man, Anthony Yeboah Boateng, administrator of the Goso Hospital and presiding member of the District Assembly. You remember that chilling thing? Yeah. By rampaging youth of Atronia in the Brong Ahafo region on April 17, 2007, shocked, confounded, and saddened Ghanaian society. Sometime in March 1999, that's Professor Atefa writing, I was nearly lynched in front of the Kaneshi police station in Accra when a man confidently insisted, though completely mistaken, that I had bought his taxi and failed to make the final payment well beyond the agreed deadline. I had never met the man in my life, and it took guts, brains, and God to convince the bellowing crowd that quickly surrounded me and bayed for my early morning blood to discard their readied fists and stones. It urgently beckons the nation to serious preventive and remedial action. His barbaric lynching is the most dramatic example of a mob mistake leading to gruesome death, a phenomenon that occurs all too commonly. Mr. Boateng, together with a Catholic nun, was conveying the remains of his mother-in-law in his car from the mortuary when the crowd of drunken youth mistook him for a serial or ritual killer, overlooked his protestations and claims of innocence, and callously murdered him. Then they destroyed his car in jubilation. If we fail to stem the ominous tide of instant justice enveloping our nation, anarchy can be the result, and our collective national security would be severely undermined. That's Ken Atefe's book on fighting armed robbery in Ghana, page 175. All right, so let's get to Jane and John. President Mahama, or the NDC, outdoored its running mates this week at the UPSA in a virtual program. She spoke on a wide range of issues and gave the nation a taste of what she's in to do on the political front. What do you make of her and her complementarity with John Mahama? Let's listen and watch this quickly and get my guest to speak.
He could have been a good president, and he will be a good president from 2021, because I believe that he has learned some lessons from some of the mistakes that he made. You know, I think that the biggest mistake he made at the beginning of his presidency, not when he was finishing off President Mills' time, but at the beginning of his presidency, was to surround himself with people who were not core NDC members. You know, his special advisor or whatever was not, his secretary was not, his secretary to the cabinet was not, his, you know, so many of them. And so there was a divorce between the government and the party. And therefore, it was not very easy for the party's program to be implemented. To a large extent, it was a program of the bureaucracy that was being implemented, and not the program of the party. But I think halfway through, he realized the problem, and so he changed course. And that's when he brought in Julius Debra as his chief of staff. He brought in what was his name? The deputy something at the AU now, Kotti.
Yes.
Yeah, as a secretary. I mean, he changed his immediately because he realized the problem that had been created. And I think that since we came into opposition, he has been working with the party people very, very closely. And that's why I think that he will be a very successful president. But even in his presidency, I think that he did very well in terms of development, especially. His development agenda was excellent. But I think it was his handling of the party that created problems for him. I've known Jane for a long time. We are actually age mates. We were both born in 1951. I'm only 1 month ahead of her. I was born in October, she was born in November. We entered secondary school together, we left together. I have known her for a long time. In 1996, I was the one who brought her from Cape Coast University to come and interview President Rawlings on Radio Gold. We have been very close together. But she was President Mahama's education minister. She was also my education minister. So if anybody should be a better judge of her as a politician, it should be President Mahama. It's not me. I think that she's President Mahama's choice. It is not time yet. Otherwise, I would reveal to you what I did and who my preferred choice was for the number 2, for the running mate position.
It wasn't Jane?
No, it wasn't Jane. But the moment she was announced, I accepted her because I know she's very good material. And we are also, charting a new course. We are breaking the glass ceiling, as they say. And you can see the confusion that it has caused in the opposition, in the government party camp, because I think this was the last thing that they imagined would happen. But I think that it is a brilliant ticket. Nana is a lady of steel. You don't run a big university like Cape Coast University with all these professors, a medical school, a law faculty, this and all of that. I mean, it takes guts to be able to, manage an institution. It's not even an institution. It's a city. It's a secondary city because population of Cape Coast University is bigger than most of the secondary cities that we have in Ghana. So she has managerial acumen, and I think she has performed well, and she deserves it. It's a good ticket. I recommend it to Ghanaians.
No, I didn't turn down the offer, but I'm immensely glad that John chose Nana as running mate. I sidestepped the position. I think that every party must forge a generational transition. You can't have the same generation of people leading and directing the party all the time. I thought it was time for the party to have this generational transition so that we, the older ones, can step back and still provide guidance if it is sought. And I think that that's what has happened, and I'm immensely thrilled that Nana was chosen. And you can see from her performance that she's every bit the kind of vice presidential material that we need.
Right, so you've just been listening to Professors Kwamina Ahoy and also Boche, Kwesi Boche. And Kwamina Ahoy, on the back of a book he has just launched, authored, Working with Rawlings, granted an interview to Kojo Yangshin, host of the morning show, Super Morning Show, and you heard the good things he had to say about Nana Jane Opoku. And yes, so, Ajiman, yes, Professor Jampo, Professor Kwamina Ahoy says she's a woman of steel, and that there is a born-again John Mahama. There's a John Mahama who has an experience being president and who has learned from his mistakes and giving an opportunity. And remember, this is how John Mahama launched his campaign to become flag bearer. He launched it on the basis that I have been there, I have done things, I know how to do it better now. So he says that complementarity is going to work. Kwesi Boche says she's the best as far as the selection is concerned, even though the generational thing he was talking about doesn't appear to gel with when you look at Nana's, age as well. Yeah, what do you say?
Well, I think the appointment of Nana Akufo-Addo, in my view, is a validation of the well-researched truism that in any developing country like ours, it is education, and sometimes not even the economy. It is education that would really help us in our fight against the quagmires of poverty and underdevelopment. And so thinking that, look, education is good, he decided to go on to appoint somebody who has that background. And so I'm thinking that as the campaign unfolds and the lead up to the 2020 elections, we'll be talking more about education. And so may the contest between free SHS and the NDC's position on education be articulated, and let the one who is able to win the hearts of Ghanaians win. But the point is this. You cannot sort of completely write her off and say that, well, she's not adding anything to the ticket and all that. I mean, those who have done that or are doing that should take an excursion to the academic boards of the various public universities and to see how debates and arguments, are made in support or against certain positions, and see how vice chancellors try to contain some of these things. It's not easy to run an academic institution made up of lecturers, senior lecturers, associate professors, full professors, and emeritus professors, and then you are the head. It's not something that is easy at all. And so if somebody is able to go through that the mill and to rise to that top position in, the University of Cape Coast used to be called the University of Constant Confusion. And during her tenure, I think there was some calm in the turbulence and all that. And so I think that she brings to the ticket a certain managerial competence, and then also, in my view, a certain level of decency. She spoke for several minutes or hours without attacking the MPP, and I think that is something that if we pursue, let the debate be a healthy contest of ideas. When the MPP mount the platform, let them say whatever they want to say.
She never mentioned MPP.
She never mentioned.
But are you saying there were no?
Well, there may be innuendos and jabs and all, but it was not that direct. And I thought it was something that was commendable. And I'm thinking that going forward into the elections, I mean, some of these things, especially if we don't get the opportunity to get a debating platform, then we should be mindful that when these aspirants and their running mates mount a platform, they will be able to just articulate what they intend doing and the bread and butter and concerns of Ghanaians. And so I think she, how she is able to articulate what John Mahama intends doing, the remorseful John Mahama and John Mahama who has learned his lesson in an opposition, how she's able to help in articulating what they intend doing will be key in deciding whether they will be given the nod or not, and how Dr. Bawumia is also able to articulate the achievement, as a ruling party would also be key. So at the end of the day, in my view, she is one of the reasons why the 2020 elections are going to be competitive, particularly given the fact that people are now being cautious. When we started, her name came up, you had people who were saying all manner of things against her. But it seems to me that going forward and as time progressed, people are now being cautious. You are cautious because if you don't take care, your comments may be seen as an attack on womanhood. And when that happens, and you have a critical mass of people getting up to rise in her defense, then you may not be doing well to your own electoral fortunes, particularly in an election that proves to be, that is likely to be keenly competitive and all that. So I think I wish her well. It was just an outdooring, and usually an outdooring is an outdooring. People are saying that she was not hard on, she was not heard about major policy issues. I think the major policy issues would have to be articulated by John Mahama himself. But when she tried to venture into some minor policy areas, she did so well, but I think the challenge was that she said nothing on the economy. And I'm thinking that in a post-COVID regime, if you're thinking about how governance will have to be carried out after COVID, you cannot talk about that without talking about the economy, because we know how COVID is ravaging economies of nation and all. And you do not need to be an economist to be able to talk about the economy. People debate budgets and economic policies of government on the floor of parliament, and they don't know anything about economy.
But John Mahama, who heralded her, spoke about the economy.
Yeah, but I'm saying that she herself, when she tried to venture into other areas of policy, she said nothing about the economy. But I was expecting that I was going to hear something small about the economy. She didn't say. But all in all, I think it's good for them. I mean, looking ready. Yeah, I think she's hit the ground running. And one of the considerations I'm thinking was taken into account was the fact that they looked out for somebody who cannot be easily attacked. Okay, our politicking is so nasty that sometimes we will not listen to what you intend doing, but we'll look at your own person and commit that ad hominem fallacy of attacking the person instead of the message that she may be carrying. And they try to look for somebody that you can't attack, her person and all.
Who doesn't have any baggage.
Not well. I'm sure if they did, you see. If a police officer says he won't arrest you, it means he doesn't want to arrest. But if they want to dig and find something, I'm sure very soon Matthew Poku Prempeh will be heard about her achievements or whatever.
Yeah, he's been saying a few things.
Well, so we'll have to interrogate those things and see how she's able to come out to defend herself and all that. At the end of the day,
but in the education front, she has such a record that you can't seem to have something to say that she has done something wrong in the area.
Well, so
rather she has achieved, something that is historic, that they rely on, about the results, for WASI, is it SSC, so...
Yeah, there are pluses there, but I'm also aware of some investigations about her own administration there that also talk about certain challenges that occurred, within her tenure. And so let's see how these things come up and how she's able to own up to them and to defend. Okay. I'm saying that the battle for 2020 is going to be fought with education playing a key role. And may the one who is able to articulate and demonstrate a firm grasp of the issues, around that area win.
Okay. All right. Kuku?
Yeah.
Yes, and you are known publicly unapologetic. Is it are you Assemblies or a Methodist?
I'm a Pentecostal.
Pentecostal, okay. So she went to church, and the presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, prayed for her and urged her, because she had demonstrated that she was coming in to try and sanitize. Yeah. The question is how she's able to hold to that the way she started, not getting down there, as in getting into the gutter. Yeah. Yes, Kuku.
Well,
she's ready?
Well, premature to answer that question. It's too early in the day.
No, but her first outing by the platform she got will give you an indication that she's ready.
You didn't wait for me to conclude. I was going to make a statement. See, you remember I was here with Madame
Joyce Bauer
when we first analyzed it. That was when she had been nominated or announced. And I made a point that it was a smart and exciting choice.
Okay.
That was my initial appreciation.
Smart and exciting choice.
Yes. And I still stand by that.
Okay.
And also, looking at her politically, it's such a remarkable rise to the position of a running mate, considering that at 2013, she was not a card-bearing member of the NDC. In terms of political trajectory, it's quite a remarkable rise. in the unlikely situation of the NDC winning, then she becomes a vice president. That would be also very remarkable. And you could see that she also played on that card in her maiden speech, the woman factor, even though there are people in the NDC who have tried to suggest that was not the paramount or primary consideration when she was being selected. Some of us don't believe that. That's why I say it was smart and exciting, because it brings a certain new paradigm, even though there have been women who have been presidential candidates or vice presidential candidates. But we all agree that in terms of the two major parties who appear to have the capacity to win an election at this material moment in our history, is the first time, and you need not ignore it or underestimate it. That's a very candid opinion I hold on that. Having said that, then that is where, when you asked me that question already, I was careful. We are going to look at, and when I say we, I mean the analysts, but especially the political opposition. The opposition to them will be doing that. But we as social commentators, analysts, were entitled to engage in that exercise. You know, what is her track record? In government, not in academia. Some will do that analysis. In academia, I don't think there's some real challenge there, in my candid opinion. I think this is a very competent professional.
But in analyzing her, you can't divorce the academia, what she did.
I'm
from
telling
what
you
she,
where the
she
emphasis will be. The emphasis. We're talking politics now. Strict politics. We're going for an election. What people will be looking at.
Why should the emphasis be what she has done in politics, not a question of her capacity to be a manager?
No. That you are entitled to make that extension and place emphasis on that one.
No, you are saying the focus will be on what she did in government.
Yes.
So my question is, why that?
Because that is very critical and important. We're talking governance of the nation. We're not just talking about managing a university.
It's about leadership.
Yes, of different levels. We're not talking about managing a university, however important and big it is, as Mr. Hoy was saying.
We always say the university is a microcosm of the country.
Something. I'm saying that we are talking of governing the country, the nation. And so her performance in government as a minister of education is something you cannot ignore or underestimate. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
I've even considered that in terms of academia, I think she's really solid. And I don't see much of emphasis there. Unless people go digging. But for what? Okay? She's clearly an established professional when it comes to academia and education. But when it comes to me as Minister of Education, I'm saying people will scrutinize it. See, one, the process she went through when she appeared before the Parliamentary Appointments Committee, the answers that she provided for some questions that she was asked, is a legitimate target to scrutinize, whether when she was in office, she went in line with those things. Two, for instance, this is a handing over notes. This handing over notes, which is a constitutional requirement, as you know, the Transition Act, is also available for scrutiny. That goes with her performance in government. This is her story. It will be checklisted. You checklist what she's put in this paper, this document here, and what she said adverting, and the output. It's legitimate. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the point I am making. There are those who go and dig into academia. I won't go there because I'm sure that it's almost a perfect track record there. That's my view. Somebody may disagree and could go and find something that I have not come across. That's politics. You can't run away from it. Short of slandering her, libeling her, character assassinating her, those are things I won't support. But a merciless critique of her performance as a Minister of Education is legit. double-checking her answers at the vetting and whether she really lived by the things she said is legit. Same with this handing over notes. That's the way I see it. That's a healthy approach towards politics. Rather than...
So you are just giving a list of what people may use to scrutinize her.
Or research students may use.
Yes, but the question here is, what's your assessment of her readiness and what she brings to the John ticket?
I've told you it's premature. I have not yet made a judgment as to her capability relative to the political field. But I tell you something. I was telling some friends that perhaps this COVID situation and the restrictions that come with it, which would not enable us to hold big rallies where we go and do that soapbox thing, may help her. In the sense that, you see, when I was listening to her speech, I remembered the days I was in school when one of my literature teachers come to teach us English literature. Yeah, she's got a sweet voice. She's really focused. She's educated, hugely educated. And I felt like a student listening to my teacher in the old days. It would be good for her on the social media, mainstream media, close, small dialogues here and there, meeting the media and things. Fortunately for her, we will not have those mass rallies to see how her body language will go, how she will tune up with the masses.
But you are not suggesting that if that opportunity existed, she may not live up to, you know...
It is a hypothesis. It is a hypothesis that at this stage, I'm not sure we can interrogate.
Let's attempt,
because we will not have
let's attempt a comparison.
Yeah.
We know how Bawumia was surprisingly unleashed on us. And I followed Bawumia's campaign team right after he was outdoored, you know, across the country. Compare Bawumia's first outing as a politician to become vice president and Nana Jinopokwajiman, who has demonstrated readiness
you remember
more than the other.
You asked this question the last time I was here with Joyce. We did ask, and we examined it. And I made the point that Bawumia in the first phase, when he had just been put out there, also didn't have that kind of magic he has today. You remember I said that?
Right.
Some people misunderstood me. But subsequently, Bawumia is going for the fourth time in terms of this running mate thing.
Yeah.
He's gathered something. He's become more experienced. He's gone out there, both the mass rallies as well as the dialogue situation I'm talking about. Progressively, he developed some qualities and capability. Madam Jane Ofoko-Achampon, Ajimai, is at the early stage. I made that point, some people didn't understand.
Yeah, so my question is, at this very early stage, if you compare the two, now you have listened to her go around, she's giving some interviews, how she articulates, how she answers questions. If you compare that to how Bawumia started off, how does it look?
Well, at this stage, if you are comparing the two as they stand, it's a mismatch. In my candid opinion, it's a mismatch. But you are asking me to do a memory lane thing. That's what you're asking.
That's correct.
That, you see, let's see, perhaps, because she's been a Minister of Education before, unlike Bawumia, who was at the Bank of Ghana and not exposed to politics, she may perhaps have a certain advantage in terms of politics or understanding of the governance system. And that is going back, putting Bawumia at that time there, timeline. I think that's what we are doing. And it's a very difficult exercise because if you are not careful, you may come out, there may be a certain lack of consistency or people appreciating what kind of comparative analysis is this. It's difficult. Yes, but you have pushed me to that stage. So I say yes, to the stage that she's a little bit more comparatively politically exposed at her first time because of as a Minister of Education. Perhaps we can give her a certain credit, but it's difficult because apart from the dialogue form, the consultative forum, the social media, mainstream media encounters, we may not see her do the bigger ones, which may go in an advantage, the point I was making. She is not going to be exposed to a mass, gathering. or rallies for us to see whether indeed she's got that quality, relative. And when I say quality, I'm not talking about intellectual quality. I'm talking about, you know, in politics there are many things. Communication. When you are communicating with the masses and things, there is something to say or not to say. But please, she will be examined critically. When you, as a minister, there were things you did. Also, you know, you've heard about this Munti 3 thing that people have raised. And she's explaining. Her explanation is unsustainable in my candid opinion.
How?
It costs the party and government a lot. They know, okay? That
she has tried to situate what she did. Because the claims are that she's a woman and there were people who were threatening issues of rape against a woman, and she went to their defense.
Yeah.
And she explains that that is completely inaccurate because they were put before the Supreme Court. They were not charged with any rape issue. And the people are not said to have committed any rape or anything like that.
Yes, I agree.
And they were punished for contempt.
Yes.
And that the process was allowed to its end.
Yes.
And they paid monies, they went to jail, and they just, as a mother, they made appeals. And she said, they have already suffered, they have made appeals, pardon them at this point. She doesn't see anything wrong with that.
I'm talking of the politics of it. It was a politically disastrous decision taken by President Mahama. And some of us said it publicly. Okay, I was against even the trial in terms of contempt charges. You know that. And I was also praying that they shouldn't be given custodial sentence. But all this were before the court decided. When the court decided, they decided the foot soldiers went out of their way. Don't forget, there were demonstrations and things, solidarity and all that, get them out almost immediately. I think the President Mahama was cautious. He delayed for a while in order to let people know that, look, I didn't just ignore the Supreme Court verdict. I did something. But it was politically a disastrous decision. And it had a negative effect on them. They know.
If you wanted them not to go to jail, and then they happen to have been put in jail for a while, and then their sentences get remitted, so to speak, why do you call it a disaster?
Have you forgotten what I said? When President Mahama was contemplating it, and it was public, I made a point that if he did that, he would be signing his political death warrant, quote unquote. That's a statement I made.
Okay.
I was convinced that once the Supreme Court had taken that decision, if President Mahama took the decision of giving them clemency, it would be seen in the political context, not the constitutional.
All right.
He had every right constitutionally. You know that.
Yeah.
I think
they went to court.
Went to court and lost.
Went to court, yeah.
Yes. So the issue was not the constitutionality of the president's decision, but the politically unwise decision that thing represented. And anybody who went signing,
run out of time.
No, so anybody who went signing that petition has a baggage.
We run out of time. Dr. Jampo wants to make some 30 seconds.
I just wanted to say that I do not think that Kuku can determine the kind of issues that people want to interrogate. Let us leave it to Ghanaians. And then most importantly, no. You are saying that what we'll be looking at will be downplaying her role, you know, in the
then he shouldn't have asked me to interrogate them
as vice chancellor, and then looking at certain. And I'm saying that let's leave it broad for people. And then also, more importantly, it is not so much about the antiques and the kinds of things that will be displayed or that get displayed on party rallies that matters. It's about the track record, as you rightly said. And so let us interrogate the track record.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And instructively, I'm reading some small portion of page 24 of the judgment delivered by the court in respect of Miss Ivaloko when she sued over her removal from the office. The court said, I will dismiss the counterclaim of both defendants asking for plaintiff to return the keys. I believe this relief has been overtaken by a fleeting of time. I do not find anything unlawful of plaintiff keeping her office keys in the circumstances of this case. So the court had actually found that there was no point about saying someone cannot keep their keys to their office, depending on the situation. even though they have been asked to go on accumulated leave. Thank you very much. Our time is up. My guests have been Abdul Malik Kukubaku, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, and our regular panelist, Professor Ransford Jampo of the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana. I'm sorry you've sent in some messages. We ran out of time. I'm unable to read them. Hopefully next week we'll continue an interesting edition of Newsfile. All right. Have a good afternoon. I'm Samson Ladia Nyanini.